Tonight had the makings of what was going to be an historic Hall of Fame nominations of guys making the Hall of Fame that would have been pretty controversial, but it's not over until the Fat Lady sings. And the words Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds were not in the Fat Lady song, only David Ortiz. In this video, I'm going to react to the Hall of Fame ballot and the guy who made it, David Ortiz, the guys who didn't make the ballot and are now no longer on it, and the guys that I think that should make it eventually. If you like this video reacting to breaking news, make sure to leave a like, comment down below. What are your thoughts on the Hall of Fame ballot? What are your thoughts on David Ortiz, on Clemens, on Bonds, and anybody else on the ballot that you would like to see make it in the near future? If you're new here, you want to help the channel grow, help me get to 2,000 subscribers, you definitely can. If you're subscribed already, tell a friend, tell a coworker, tell a stranger, family member, whoever. It is greatly appreciated. So throughout the day, we were seeing all these different ballots being counted, and it looks like Clemens and Bonds have the percentage, but all votes have to be counted. As we know, whether it's baseball or anything else, you got to count every single vote before the final decision is made. And when it came down to it, Bonds and Clemens were both almost 10% off of making the Hall of Fame. This equates to about 38 votes, somewhere in that ballpark. And I think the main reason why these guys are left off, it's not the performance. I mean, we know how good they were. Some of it was enhanced, obviously. Josh Radwich, the president of the Baseball Hall of Fame, who was making the announcements, when he said the criteria of what a Hall of Famer is, he mentioned the words integrity, character, and sportsmanship. Bonds didn't have a couple of those, and Clemens didn't have any of those. So again, obviously you can give me the numbers, but when you talk about the integrity, when you cheated like the way these guys did, there's no integrity in that. When you talk about character, the way Clemens behaved, he had very terrible character. And you talk about sportsmanship, look what Clemens did with Mike Piazza and tell me he had the sportsmanship of a guy that belongs in the Hall of Fame. Now, you could question David Ortiz's integrity for a failed test in 2003, which he was never suspended for. It wasn't found out until 2009. You would have to imagine that every single year after 2003, they were testing David Ortiz and nothing came up. So David Ortiz was probably clean from 2004 on, which is where Big Papi did most of his damage. You look at especially what he did in the postseason. I mean, that World Series run, the last World Series run that David Ortiz had, he carried the Red Sox against the St. Louis Cardinals. I mean, that guy was hitting on another planet compared to everybody else. He was clutch and a great guy. Everybody loves David Ortiz. He had high character. He had good sportsmanship, not like Clemens and Bonds. And again, you could say, oh, well, Barry Bonds was a Hall of Famer before he took the PEDs, and he definitely was. He was on that trajectory when he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates, but when you look at the massive jump he had when he went to San Francisco and he took the steroids, I mean, you don't just go from being a guy that hits 20 home runs, 30 home runs, to hitting 70 home runs. I mean, that is just insane. And as the old saying goes, the Hall of Fame is a privilege, not a right. Now, Curt Schilling is another guy that is worthy of being in the Hall of Fame for his numbers, but as of right now, the way his character and integrity has been recently, looks like he's probably not going to make it. I think he has alienated too many people, and again, it's a privilege. Curt Schilling says he doesn't want to be in the Hall of Fame, then you're probably not going to go into the Hall of Fame, but his numbers are worthy of it, and he didn't take any performance-enhancing drugs. The other guys I would like to see, Scott Rowland, he definitely got a nice big boost in his vote total. I would like to see Scott Rowland get in. He was very underrated, one of the best defensive third basemen ever. He was very consistent, no PEDs, good character and all that other stuff. Same goes for Billy Wagner, probably the greatest lefty reliever of all time. His numbers match up very closely to Trevor Hoffman's, and Trevor Hoffman has been in the Hall of Fame. He got in right away. So there's no excuse why Billy Wagner should not be in the Hall of Fame. I really hope that people see the light and get Billy Wagner in. Also a tremendous guy, checks out all across the board. Andruw Jones has been underrated as a guy that he was good for a very long time. One of the better defensive center fielders you'll ever see. He had great power, and he had a lot of good seasons. He also had longevity, which is something you want to see. You don't want to see a guy that had 5 crazy years, then he was kind of mediocre. I mean, guys like Andruw Jones, Scott Rowland, they did it for a long period of time. Todd Helton has the numbers. I personally am not a fan of his home and away splits. They're pretty drastic. I mean, a 280 hitter away from Coors Field, that's pretty good, and then he's over 300 at home. Oh, wow, that's a Hall of Famer. So I do think there was a little bit of an asterisk with Todd Helton. Jeff Kent is another guy who is worthy of being a Hall of Famer, but really has not gotten much love even this year's ballot. He only had 30-something%. So I don't see Jeff Kent getting in, but I would like to see him get in. I was thinking Torrey Hunter only getting 5% was really odd. I mean, this is a guy that was good for a very long period of time. He made plenty of All-Star games, Gold Glover, had a lot of good seasons, great guy. I mean, he checks all the boxes, so I think Torrey Hunter definitely deserved a lot more votes. But other than that, I don't really have any other major gripes. I think that those guys I mentioned, hopefully some of them get in eventually. Other than that, there were some guys that weren't even close. I think it was interesting that A-Rod was only 34%, And you know what, David Ortiz, we talk about this one potential test in 2003. A-Rod got busted multiple times and also was not a guy that was liked a lot. He didn't show the greatest character and integrity with the way he was, arguing with everybody. So that's what separates David Ortiz from Alex Rodriguez. But hope you guys did enjoy this video. Again, let me know what you're thinking about the ballot. Obviously, I'm an old man. I'm a traditionalist. I'm old school. I prefer guys that didn't cheat. So that's just my opinion, and that's what it comes down to. It's all about opinions, and it is what it is at this point. I mean, people could complain about Bonds and Clemens not getting in, but they're not getting in. They're not going to, and that's that. Maybe 50 years from now, a Veterans Committee lets them in, but at this point, if they didn't get in now, I don't think they should. And the fact that somebody like Joe Morgan said that these guys do not belong in the Hall of Fame, and then he passes away, and then you would put them in. It just didn't seem right to the previous legends that really have done so much for this game, and these guys that tarnished it or, grew the popularity, and baseball was okay with that at the time. I just don't think they really fit in with everybody else. The other thing I want to talk about real quickly is the lockout. They have had some meetings the past couple of days. Today and yesterday, they've gone over some proposals. MLB Player Associations and MLB. They've made a little bit of progress, but the problem is they are still very far apart dollars-wise, which is what's going to hold things up the most out of any other topics that they're going to cover. Universal DH, extra innings rules, all that stuff doesn't really matter to them. What matters is the cheddar cheese, the money. And if these guys are still far apart on money, then we're still far apart from seeing Major League Baseball come back anytime soon and seeing any big free agency moves or trades or spring training games. I think in all likelihood we're headed for a delay because the problem with the COVID shortened season was that these guys couldn't agree to money. And that's what made the season get delayed and delayed and delayed and missed all those games. So I think the same thing is probably going to happen at this point. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I do not want a shortened spring training or a shortened season. I think it completely hurts the product, and it's nowhere near as good as it should be. It's very hard to evaluate. But we'll see what happens. All we can do is hope for the best. So until the next one, be safe, be smart, be healthy, and let's go MLB. Get this lockout to end, please.